Recognise the member from Cartwright-L'Anse, Clair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and it's nice to be back in the House to start another spring sitting. We always come back with lots of issues. Just listen to the member across the way talk about Tony that we've all had emails from, and this is not what I'm going to talk about, but on the other side we're hearing a lot today about the positive things they're doing. I was actually really saddened when I saw the most recent report card. Persons with disabilities, we were scoring the worst in this province, in the country, the worst. We looked at, I think it was in 2011, the number of people with disabilities that were working, and when compared a year later, only 35% were still working. So I just say that as an aside note, Mr. Chair, to point out that we still have a lot to do. Mr. Speaker, it'll be no surprise to anybody that I'm going to talk about an issue that's plaguing my district right now, that's plaguing Labrador and people from the island that are trying to get to Labrador, and that's the ferry and the ferry system. And I hope one day, Mr. Chair, I'll be able to stand in my place here and I'll be able to talk about any other things, a gamut of things, but I won't talk about this main transportation link from the island to Labrador being severed. And the Finance Minister got up and he said he hears us with our stories of doom and gloom and we don't offer solutions. He's going to hear me today offer solutions. I'll offer a couple. Mr. Chair, the Minister of Transportation talked about going around engaging citizens, listening to people and acting on it so that we're not just doing patchwork. Well, Mr. Speaker, I can tell you that I live in an area where we feel very much like the services that we've been given is patchwork, Mr. Speaker. You know, the Minister of Transportation talked about the $750 million in ferry services. We're not there yet, Mr. Chair. Why are we not there? Are we last again? That's what the people in my district are asking. Are we last again, Mr. Speaker? We're still not there. There was an RFP that went out, closed almost a year ago. After 3 delays, it closed in June 2014, and it was an RFP to replace the aging vessels that service Labrador Marine. And months later, Mr. Speaker, I had a number of mayors in here from my area, and we were told that the RFP would be out before the end of the year. We waited. In January, I was told it would be out very, very soon. And here we are, Mr. Chair, we're back into spring setting, and we still, it wouldn't fix the problems that we have right now, but I guarantee you it would be a little reprieve, Mr. Chair, to know that something better is coming for the people in that area. I once read a quote that said, if we do what we've always done, we get what we've always got. And I think my colleague from St. John's South said it well earlier today when he said, we can't do much about the ice conditions in the Strait of Belle Isle, but we can do something about the resources that we put there. And Mr. Speaker, I want to talk about this RFP for a minute. There's a lot of concern. Right now, people are stranded for days on end. And I look around this House of Assembly, Mr. Chair, and I think that the people here would have to live on the other side and try and utilise that service to gain a full appreciation of just how bad it is, Mr. Chair. When you have got family on one side of the straits and they have a family member that's dying on the other side, and there is no flights and a ferry haven't moved for 6 or 7 days, not a very pleasant situation, Mr. Chair. When you've got somebody who needs to get to Corner Brook for a 15-minute appointment and that takes them 15 days, Mr. Chair, and thousands of dollars later, not a good situation. When you have store shelves, Mr. Chair, that are bare, and we could talk about the whole ripple effect of unhealthy food and things like that. Store shelves that are bare. Years ago, Mr. Chair, when I grew up and I did a statement to speaking to my grandfather earlier today, proud to do it. When I grew up as a young teenager, we stocked for the winter. I grew up in a family business. The supplies came in and we stocked. We're much worse off now. I'm sad to say that. We're much worse off. People are not stocking for months because we have this service. We have companies that have gone down to St. Barb just last week, and they sit there for 6 or 7 days, and then their produce is spoiling, and then they're going back and they're collecting again. And the people in Labrador are paying for the price of that. I had a business person email me just yesterday, and he said, I have the largest retail business in your district. And when this government tells me that we're not stranded, that we have the option of driving around, he said, I get my goods from Corner Brook, and a container of goods costs me just under $2,000. But if I want to take that same container of goods and I want to drive 3,000 kilometres in several provinces and several ferries, that same container of goods is costing almost $19,000. Now compare that, Mr. Speaker. That's what we're dealing with. Businesses. I had an email this morning from a business that said, I'm being forced out of business. We warned this government. We asked them to listen. We asked them to put something better in place. Nobody listened. Now who is compensating me for losing a business? As I sat here this afternoon, Mr. Speaker, my mind wandered back to the mid-90s, about 20 years ago. I had not moved home very long. But when I moved home to Charlottetown from living in St. John's, we had 2 commercial flights flying in and out of my little community. We had 2 private airlines. We were paying $100 return across the straits. Movement every day, multiple times a day, planes coming and going. Here we are, Mr. Speaker, 2 decades later, and days on end from January to April, we are at a standstill. That's sad, Mr. Speaker. It's very sad. If we do want to get a flight, we're paying $900 return, $900. And it's infuriating, Mr. Speaker, that when the boat don't run for 6, 7, 8 days, when the boat don't run, there's no option offered to the people. There is no subsidy. There would not be a big uptake on subsidy, but you would be helping people like the sisters that were stranded on the other side, and they had a family emergency and they were stuck there for days, Mr. Speaker. I'm very concerned, Mr. Speaker, as many people in the region, that after having these problems for years and years and years, we're about to lock into a 15-year ferry contract, Mr. Speaker, that I don't know if it's going to do anything to alleviate the problems we got now. Are we going to spend $70, $80 million of taxpayers' dollars, and we're going to have a nicer seat to sit in on the ferry, but we're going to be no better off in terms of ice class or in terms of horsepower? That's very concerning, Mr. Speaker. We have to get things right. You know, the government, no matter who they are, sometimes, Mr. Speaker, like in the case of providing this essential link and this essential service, we have to put things aside, Mr. Speaker, politics aside, and we have to look at the greater good. And the business of government is to provide at least a basic service, Mr. Speaker, to the people that it represents. And the people in this case have been failed. There is nobody that can stand up on the other side and say what they've done. They have been failed, and they have been failed miserably. And here we are today in 2015, and I listen to speakers get up on the other side, Mr. Speaker, and talk about, you know, the progress that we've made. I'm talking about transportation. Local people on the ground and the knowledge that they have, I'm a firm believer, is second to none. We had this government appointed transportation committees, and Mr. Speaker, the recommendations that they put forward, they did not adhere to them in any way. Why waste people's time? Why set up committees when they're putting forth suggestions and none of the suggestions are being followed, Mr. Speaker? So I don't know why the new RFP is not announced yet. But the people of Cartwright-L'Anse, Clair, the people of Labrador, the people of Straits White Bay North and Western and the trucking companies, we would like to know what's causing the delay. More important than that, this new vessel was supposed to come on stream in 2016. Because this RFP was supposed to be out by the end of the year, will the delay in the RFP mean a delay in that ship coming on? These are all questions, and I hope in the coming days, Mr. Chair, we're going to get some answers to that, because I can tell you right now, it's pretty tough going right now. It's very difficult. When you go up, and people will say to me, oh, Lisa, it's a tough year everywhere. There's ice in the Cabot Strait. Marine Atlantic had a delay. There's ice between New Brunswick and Charlottetown. We had 3 passenger boats. They had a delay. But I guarantee you, Mr. Chair, there is nobody that is experienced anywhere handy to the delays that's being experienced in the Strait of Belle-Isle. Frequent, continued, prolonged days on end delays for people, spending huge amount of money, missing appointments, and it all comes back, you know, if we invest and we do it right. I look at these people who are using the medical transportation program. I could give you many examples. And then they're stranded and it's costing, and then they're claiming that back through the government, Mr. Speaker. So, I mean, I hope the delay in the RFP, Mr. Speaker, is because they're back to the drawing board and they're hoping that they're going to get it right because they know what they put out before wasn't right. And I thank you for the opportunity, and I will be up again. Thank you.